I greet you this morning on this 5th day of August 2024 with the love of God, and I thank you for the privilege of being able to be a part of your morning push-off. This is Monday. Monday is our day of coming together to start the week, and we begin to think about how the Holy Spirit is going to guide us and direct us, and what thoughts we are to inquire and to put together and to experience among one another. This morning I want to share with you out of 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 9. Strong word there from God himself. I'm going to read from this King James translation. He says, "And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." He says, "Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ might rest upon me." And for thought, I want to talk to you out of this work. Work your faith. Work your faith. You know, it's interesting because none of us want to be imperfect, if you will, or have imperfections in our body, because we would rather be totally healed and delivered and set free so that we can function according to the greatness that we have. But here the Apostle Paul does something that is rather unique. He talks about a vision that he had. He said the vision was 14 years ago. And he says, I can't tell whether I was in the body or out of the body. In other words, if I was in the spirit or out of the spirit, I can't tell. He says, but the one thing I do know is that I heard things that I don't have the vocabulary to express. And therefore, I am going to keep those things under wraps. He says, but then this much I can tell you. God sent Satan to buffet me and to cause me to have something that I went to him 3 times about and asked him to relieve this from me. Can you imagine what it would be like to go to God time after time after time, asking him to remove this infirmity, this weakness from you? And instead of moving it from you, because in times past he has moved things at your request, but this time he does not. And his reply to you is, my grace is sufficient for you. So I want to talk to us about lean on your grace, because it's able to keep you. Okay, I'm not healed. I'm not completely well. I'm not as strong as I once was. I'm not even as sharp as I was. But God's grace is more than enough to keep me. You know, even in verse number, I think it's verse 10 of 2 Corinthians 12. He says, therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities. I take pleasure in my weakness. He says, I take pleasure in my reproach, in my necessities, in persecution, in distress. I do it for Christ's sake. He says, for when I'm weak, then I am strong. I think that's a good way for us to start off on Monday, to determine that he's done it in the past, but today he says, I want you to ride on grace, because my grace has a way of triggering you and bringing you back to the place that you realize that the way you see me is the way I must see myself. I'm out. Have a tremendous day today, and may the peace of God be with you, is my prayer. Talk with you all.